Sorry, we are 3 days into the week. But the question is, how is the day moving and how is the week moving so far? Is it so far so good? Because sometimes we say it is moving so far so good on my side, but is it actually happening to your wish? That is the question also really we should be asking ourselves this morning. But that's not the reason as to why we're here. We are back to keep you updated of what's happening in the world and corridors of current affairs, because this is where we want to let you know of what's happening right from the region, nationally and international, because we do not limit our discussions to what is happening within Uganda alone. Sometimes we go across borders, and all this is to keep you informed of what is happening right in your vicinities and across borders. And that's why we're here. Today happens to be the 10th of July. That means we are 10 days also still into the month of July, which is also the 7th month of the year in there. The question you should also really be asking yourself is, we are already past the middle of the year, because the year has about 12 months. We are already 1 month past the half of the year, and that is also really where you should be assessing yourself right now in terms of the plans that you laid at the beginning of the year, in terms of what you wanted to do. If at all you haven't achieved any, still the months are still there, the months are still there. You can't be able to achieve within the remaining days of the month in there, and the remaining also the months of the year are definitely where you will also be still in position to achieve whatever you want to achieve. Because if you are working hard, and definitely if you're working hand in hand, at the end of the month you will be able to solely achieve certain goals that you set at the beginning of the year. And that is why it is very, very much important for you to also really be part of the discussions in here. And that is where we are going to be letting you know what is happening, because yesterday we did see our brothers from South Sudan also really celebrating their independence. That is the 13th anniversary, and I was able to see a number of students from this region be ferried also really by vehicles of UNHCR and vehicles of different schools also really ferrying their students upon also the celebration in there, which did go on. That is also really in one of the hotels in Arua City, which was also something I must say was nice and amazing to also really see in there, that our students also really who are refugees can be able to also really celebrate. And this is what we want to see, because we are able to see them also really unite together. There was nothing like Amemuru or Amedinka, Amenuere. They were all speaking the same language. Junubin, which is actually the right word, which must always be promoted, because when we start talking about the Junubin, definitely when I talk about the Junubin, somebody out there may not be understanding what exactly the word Junubin means. It is actually a word to say I'm South Sudanese, and that is actually one thing we did see happening in there, and this is actually what we want to see. And this is solely something we must be able to solely promote at all times. And now, as part of the celebration yesterday to mark the 13th anniversary, we did see our brothers and students from also their association body, the South Sudanese United Students Association, yesterday held also what we call swearing in ceremony for the newly elected leaders of the association. And this was in a function also presided by Assistant President City Commissioner, that is for Arua Central Division, that is Judith Wako in there. And this is what we did see also there, where she was the chief guest at this function, also representing also in there. And that is what we want to see at all times. And we want us to always talk about brotherhood, and this is actually something which I feel must be also be promoted in there. And this function took place at Airy Park, that is hotel in Arua City, and this is what we must always promote amongst our students, because these are future leaders of tomorrow. We may be talking about them being students, but trust me, these are future leaders of tomorrow, and they must start speaking the same language right now, and so that also when they go back, they will be able to solely when they take over the positions, they will be able to know that why it is very, very much important for them to work together. And that is actually what we did see happening in there. And now, leaving that aside, now to look at what's happening nationally, I must inform you that 3 MPs have so far been remanded, and this is also really among the 3 MPs also we are, besides them, we also did see a lawyer and a trade official who have further been remanded over, that is the shillings 3.4 billion theft in there. And that is what we also did see in there. But then the question you should be asking yourself is that, are you excited of this move? Is it actually the right thing? Are we going to be seeing it combat corruption? Besides the president's also creation of more units to fight corruption, we are going to be also really still asking for your opinion in there, because now we have gotten to understand that more units have so far been created, and this is also really to and we have also been told that more will still be created, and this is to combat corruption in there. But really the question is, are you satisfied with the existing ones? Have they delivered enough? These are things also really we need to also really have discussions on, as the president looks forward to creating more of these units in there. And that is where entirely I want to leave it in your hands to also really share your opinions, but that's not why we are here. And now 3 MPs of Parliament have also really, and their lawyer plus a Ministry of Trade official, we are on July also really of 9th further remanded to prison awaiting the state's response, that is to bail hearing also really in there, which is also really pending application of their case of, that is, of diversion of funds and conspiracy to defraud in there. And the group that has been also really on remand since 21st of June had appeared before the anti-corruption court, that is Nakasero, presided over by the chief magistrate, that is Joanna Chiro, for the hearing of what we call their bail application in there, but which did not go on well. And these include MPs like known as Michael Mawanda, who is of NRM representing, that is the people of Igara East. Ignatius Mudumi, who is also really representing, that is people of Elgon County in there. We also do have Paul Akamba Sisi, who is representing Busigi County, and lawyer Julius Taintako Kiria, and Mr. Leonard Chivundi, who is a principal cooperative officer from the Ministry of Trade, who have also really been arrested in here. And we are talking about 3.4 billion, for which they were arrested. And remember, earlier on this year, during the budget speech, the president did talk about how he is going to be crushing corruption. And he has actually talked about corruption being right at the top levels by some of the officials who also really inflate and want to play with the budget so that they can be able to allocate some of the funds for themselves in there. And that is what we did see in there. But are we satisfied as a citizen, as somebody who is watching us right now? Are you satisfied by the move the president, the head of state, His Excellency Dr. Museveni, has taken, that is to combat corruption in this country? Do you think it is going to also really address the corruption that we are seeing today? Because many people are asking themselves that why is it coming now? Why wasn't this done so many years back? And why didn't this also start so many years back? And this is actually what the critics are saying. But nonetheless, we must appreciate the little that has been done, and I believe this is going to be achieving. And what do you think as a viewer? Do you think it is going to address the issues of corruption, or this is just a time-wasting game? This is where I need your opinion. If at all you have any, feel free to drop it on our comment sections on Facebook. For those of you watching us via there, I will be also really going to check in there, not forgetting those who are also really watching us via YouTube. Feel free to still to drop your comments in there, and still I will be in position to check and let other viewer know what you're thinking. And that is actually where we are going to be having an impact on society, because we must discuss issues that also really affect us right from the local level until the top level, because we must understand that the issues of corruption do not only affect the government alone. When we talk about the government, it is me and you, and it is actually something which we must also not leave to only those who are there entrusted with also to fight the vice in there. And that is what we did see happening in there, and we are yet following up also on the case in there, where they face up to 5 counts, with the 4 also being diversion of public resources, while 1 is conspiracy to defraud in there. And among the grounds raised to secure temporary release include that having also fixed places of abode. They are still also presumed innocent, and remember, our laws have to prove you as innocent. That is also really, or guilty. That is beyond the reasonable doubt in there. And now this is also where they are yet suspects, and it is yet treated as an allegation until where the court has to declare them also either guilty or innocent of these crimes in the However, prosecution led by Adrian Tusingure told court that the investigation in the matter was complete, and also asked the court for more time to verify the bulky documents that were presented by the sureties in there. And that is what he did ask for. And as we talk now, these people are still also on remand, and we are going to be also letting you know when they will be able to be released. And the trial magistrate concurred with the state's submission and further remanded the accused persons, that is until July of 18th this year in there, and they will also still be in prison. And one person actually said about this people that from a VIP kind of life to Chitalia or to Luzira, which is really, really nagging. Because you were doing also really something that was tremendous, and something also really that could have also really put you to certain kind of level, and really to be reduced to the extent of being sent to prison is really, really unfair. And that is where it becomes quite difficult. And we say people now must respect also what they are doing, because if at all they're not respecting what they're doing, if they're not respecting the electorate, then that is how it is going to be quite unfortunate. And then at the end of the day, issues of prison, issues of being sentenced, I will also not be able to spare them. And that is why we are saying, if once you're into these positions, you may not be able to be a member of parliament, you may not be able to be an accounting officer, but still you are holding a public office. We are saying avoid tendencies of corruption or issues of also really getting to also really interest yourselves in corruption, because at the end of the day, when they get you, you are going to first of all be embarrassed. At the end of the day, you also really going to be also really ashamed of yourself in there. And this is where we also want to leave that discussion aside. And this is only one also thing where I need your opinion on still. If at all you have any, you feel free to share with us in our comment section. And that is where we're going to be leaving that. And still talking about corruption and looking at the news as one of the strategies that President is looking out to, that is to combat the vice. Remember earlier on, I did mention to you during the budget speech, which was only last month in there, he did talk to us about how as corruption has infiltrated the country and how we are losing also the huge amounts of money. But we are losing money more than trillions, and this is just in the hands of corruption. And the president actually came out to say he is going to be doing what it takes to combat this vice by all means. And I must say, at this moment at least, we are now seeing also the fight where we are seeing more arrests being carried out. And I feel this is actually the way to go, and this is something that needed to be done in the last few months or further, more years, because this is something where if it started long ago, right now we will be far as a country, because many of times we are talking about money being swindled by some also officers, and also some officers who take money, but nothing has been done to them. And besides also having several bodies that are there to also to combat the vice. For instance, look at what we have. We have the Anti-Corruption Court, we have IGG, we have so many others which are all entitled to combat corruption, but the vice keeps on going on. And what exactly is being done to combat this? And now we did see the president, Yoweri Museveni, saying that he has come out to believe that the country has a lots of money and is also under collected in there. The president said yesterday that he is establishing 2 additional units in a bid to scrutinize that is fraud in public institutions. And this is the head of state also said he has come to believe that the country has a lot of money, and which is also really very, very much under collected in there. And he said he's going to be forming new body. And remember, he is meeting also with the cabinet. That is a Chankwanzi for a week-long retreat, and this is where issues of corruption and public service also really is also really being talked to these people, and they are talking about service delivery. And remember, service delivery has been affected by the vice of corruption, and now this is actually where the president has called upon, that is the principal officers. We have also seen some people from NRM who are part of this meeting, and Richard Atudong, actually I did see him there. We also did see so many others, and yesterday I did see the vice president Jessica Lupo also delivering her message in there. And all this is to make sure the tendencies of corruption in this country go down, and we are yet following upon these discussions, and we shall wait to have the outcomes of what exactly will be able to come from there, because we want to see if at all this will yield fruits. Because we are talking about corruption, and when we talk about corruption, definitely it has been able to be also really affecting us at all, because many of us have been affected by that vice, but nothing much has been done. And we now want to see also really how this vice will be crushed. And as much as the president has come out to say that he will be crushing corruption, and that is one thing also really he has given out as his message, and as he's also really message that is also to combat the vice in there. And that is one thing also really we are following up on. Now he says, apart from the State House and Corruption Unit, I am also going to set that is up both a tax investigation unit and an accounting and also the audit unit. That's also to help these bodies to also combat corruption in there. And this country has, your viewers, has a lot of money. I am now convinced that you have got a lot of money. First of all, there is under collection of taxes. I hope you call the fellow tax fellow also in there, and that is what President Museveni said in there. And what do you think about that? I want to leave it entirely in your hands to share your opinions with us on what you think also is going to be doing maybe to address the corruption vice in there. And what do you think we will also be able to come out of that is the president in there, as much as we talk about this issue of corruption, because we want to also make sure that this vice that has been causing issues of service delivery also be kicked out, because many of our people who have been able to move these public services also to seek for help haven't been receiving that is also their satisfaction, and that means we need to do something that will be able to make us move from where we are to a higher level. And who exactly is supposed to be doing that? It means me and you. If you see somebody is engaging in corruption, if somebody is asking for kitu kidogo, you have the mandate to also report them to these bodies that we already have in place. We have the IG, we have this now the new that is also going to be created by the State House, we have the Anti-Corruption Court. All these are also going to be able to also still help the corruption also revised, be kicked out in there, and have the existing ones deliver to your expectations. This is where I need your opinion as a viewer, if at all not. Why? And what do you think needed to be done to make sure that instead of maybe creating more units, we support the already existing bodies? Because many times, sometimes these bodies have also already been able to complain about certain issues here and there, about issues of underfunding, about issues of some people being untouchables. How do we make sure that these issues and these allegations does not proceed? And we also need to have sure that also really we develop as a city and we kick maybe corruption out of this country, so that also these allegations and these tendencies will not be able to surface in there, because the more these issues surface, then definitely the more also service delivery is affected in there. And that is where I want to leave the discussion aside, and now let's look at what's happening elsewhere. Because when we talk about issues of corruption, we also really will be able to talk about corruption until tomorrow, because this vice affects, that is, each and everyone out there. And at one point, each and every person at least out there should be touched by this vice, because when we talk about corruption, then we know how dangerous it can be and how it has been affecting and eating the country. And that is why we are saying, have you ever been affected by corruption, and what did you do? Has anybody asked for money, maybe in form of bribe from you? Have you given it out? If you did so, then you're corrupt. And if at all you didn't also give, then what did you do? Did you report the case? And what was done to this person who was asking for a bribe? And that is where also really we want to leave that discussion aside, because services are meant to be for free of charge without necessarily being asked for bribes in there, because asking for bribe is a crime, and that is also really according to our laws in there. And that is where I want to leave that discussion aside, and now to look at what's happening elsewhere in there. And remember, now NFA receives a new boss, that is Manirahanga, who was Guha, who has now been appointed to head that National Forest Authority. And this is really where we are now expecting him also to champion the restoration of the affected forest cover in there, because many of these forests also and game reserves and forest reserves have also been affected in one way or the other. And now that's where NFA needs to come in place and also beef up its operations, that's to restore this forest cover that has been affected in there. And I feel this is actually the right time for us to receive a new boss, and the new boss also must come with a lot of energy that also will be able to also support the government in terms of restoration of the forest cover that has been affected. Indian Stewart Mainro Agua has been appointed as the acting executive director, that's of National Forest Authority, for the next 6 months. In the appointment comes after Tom Obong Okello's term of office as the ED ends after 6 transformative years. And in a statement also released on Tuesday, that's of July 9th, 2024, NFA also noted that the Mainro Agua was introduced to the staff on Monday, was also the formal handover, a ceremony that was witnessed also by all NFA staff, both physically and online in there. And I guess we are drawn from the ranges and also the plantations of NFA also nationwide in there, and that is what we did see happening in there. And now, what do you expect of the new NFA boss? And this is where I need your opinion to also really share with us, and share your opinions and let us know what you really feel and what this new person who is coming in needs to do in terms of sort of making sure that we have also the forest cover protected. Because when you look at the forest cover today, it is being threatened also first of all by the increasing population, because the more the population increases, then the more the demand for also the households also increases in there, because people think that also instead of them also encroaching on this wetland, the forest cover, and then definitely they need to do certain things so that will be able to sort of keep them in the limelight and also keep them also going in there. And I feel this is actually something that needs to be done. And in his inaugural address, acting executive director Stewart emphasized the importance of teamwork and mutual support, and I believe he needs to also work that is hand in hand with the rest of those people who have ever been there, and also his subordinates in there, and that would also at the end of the day also promote and also push his efforts in terms of protecting the forest cover in there. Because when we look at our forest reserves today, you will be able to realize that most of them are facing threats of also that is being destroyed in there. And who exactly is behind behind the destruction of this forest cover. We are talking about the masses and people who have settled on this forest cover. And this is one thing also really we need to also really make sure that NFA has the mandate also really of protecting this 506 central forest reserves, totaling also to millions of hectares in there. And that is where, with the objective of improving the management of the central forest reserves and expanding partnerships already and non-forest products and services, also really ensuring organizational stability in there. And that is one thing also really we are going to be looking forward to, also really expecting out of him. And NSF was established under Section 52 of the National Forestry and Tree Planting Act, which was launched, that is also really on April 26th of 2004 in there. And the NFA website states that authority is mandated to manage the central forest reserves on a sustainable basis and to supply high profile and high quality forest related products and services to government, local governments and local communities, and not forgetting the private sector in there. And that is where these people need to work hand in hand. And remember, in West Nile we have also really we have so many forest reserves, and the most common and also the most known that's within to the people of West Nile and Arua City in particular is the Barifa Game Forest Reserve, that which is also really being also really facing also really issues and threats also really of also people wanting to encroach on it there. And that is where NFA needs to come out and also really make sure that the activities that will be conducted in this forest reserve do not also really put it at risk of also really being destroyed. That is completely in there, because much as we are talking about population increase, definitely we are also talking about projects that would also really want to go in there. And I believe if at all such projects are put in these forest reserves, definitely we may have both the negative and the positive also really coming in there. And that is where, when we are to look about certain things, we must make certain considerations of comparing both the advantages and negative, also the disadvantages in there. Because at the end of the day, when we don't look at this, and then definitely if at all we give permits for people to settle on maybe on these forest reserves, it is going to have a negative implication. And who exactly is going to be carrying the negative implication? It means it is going to be having a negative implication on both me and you. And that is where I want to caution now the new executive director, who is on acting basis, to make sure also really he takes up and fits in the shoe that his predecessors had done. And I believe his predecessors had done very, very much better. And we expect him now to do more better in terms of really making sure that NSV activities are first of all protected, and also really in terms of making sure the mandate for which this body was created is achieved. Because if at all we talk about this body, then it is also only one body that is under government. It also really survived being also really merged in the recent also really merger also scandal in here, because many people also really wanted many agencies being merged, but NFS survived, and that is already being taken to under Ministry of Environment in there. But now it has survived. We are expecting one thing: we are expecting improvement in service delivery, first of all in protecting these forest reserves. And at the end of the day, we also want to see a population maybe in the environment also be protected. And that is where NFA must work hand in hand with the rest of the agencies. For instance, a National Environment Authority also needs to work with NFA. We also need to see NFA working together with the Wetland Department, so that we protect our environment. And that is where we are going to be putting that discussion aside. But nonetheless, we congratulate Stewart for upon being appointed as the acting executive director, and we hope also he will be appointed, that is on permanent basis, and from which where we are going to be also attaining and expecting a lot from him. And for now, let's have this short commercial break. As we bounce back shortly, my name is Farish Majid. Stay tuned.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Mbappe, Cristiano Ronaldo, Harry Kane, Sané, Griezmann, Lewandowski, and many more. Who is your European star? We are very familiar with all German stadia. Trust us to give you the best Euro experience affordably. Catch the matches live on NBS Sport, channel 255 on antenna or channel 199 on Dish Decoder on Star Times. We got your stars. This message is brought to you by Star Times Solar. Star Times Solar, more than just solar.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Alright, welcome back from the short commercial break. We are back for the Wednesday edition of the KOKOLIRIKO live show. In case you are just joining us right now, you're most welcome aboard from wherever you're watching us from. It could be within West Nile sub-region, it could be naturally, it could be Lango, Karamoja, and parts of Bunyoro and Buganda, and not forgetting Teso and Bugisu and all over Uganda, where you choose to watch us. We say a very, very good morning to you. And our brothers in South Sudan, we did celebrate Happy Independence Day. Once again, we also really want to congratulate you and say congratulations upon the 13th anniversary. And we are yet also really praying for peace to reign in the youngest nation of the world in there. And our brothers in South Sudan, the DRC, we did celebrate theirs a few days ago. We also really saying merci beaucoup for also really watching West Nile television in there. And not forgetting those who are watching us overseas, because sometimes we are people who watch us that is overseas. It could be in Europe, it could be in Asia, but nonetheless we are still saying that it is a great morning here in West Nile sub-region, because looking at the weather today in Arua City, I must say it is quite chilly. We are not also really seeing it very, very much bad in there, but we are going to be keeping you informed of what could be happening within the region, and that is a reason as to why we come in each and every mornings, that's from Mondays to Fridays, right from 7 o'clock until 9 o'clock, to keep you informed of what is happening right from the region. And in case you feel that you need to also let us know of something, feel free to walk through. That is at plot 39A, Weatherhead Park Lane. That is along Anyofia in there, and that is where you will be able to also really see our station, well branded also with the West Nile TV right up in there. And this is where actually you will be able to also be received by a team who are welcoming also to also really ask, maybe reply to your questions in there. And if at all you have anything, feel free to walk in there, and they will be able to also answer your question. If it's business still, walk through, and they will also really be able to advertise your business, because for you to have your business advertised, by the way, it has so many advantages. Many people may be looking at it as a burden, but we are saying you're not wasting money, and to have money on adverts, by the way, I must say, is not wastage of money. You are carrying out also branding and also brand awareness, and one way you are going to be also doing brand awareness is actually through adverts. And this is where many people are going to be watching your business, and that is actually one thing also really, as a business person out there, you must also always embark on, and also make sure that you do, and you must prioritize that, by the way, and keep your target markets also informed of your products in there. And one person to do that for you is actually West Nile TV, and that is where you need to walk towards our office, and with that for you. And that is actually how our millions and millions of viewers also really will be able to also take advantage of that. And that is where we now want to have a discussion in the second hour with. And now looking at some of the stories I reported this morning, we are seeing a man who has been detained for vandalizing, that is police CCTV in there. But really, what is wrong with human beings? What's wrong with Ugandans? How do you vandalize vandalize something also that was installed by law enforcement officers. And this is something also where if you are told you are arrested and then you start feeling very bad. And how do you be arrested? That is for vandalizing CCTV in there, and that is one thing also we also want to make sure that we talk about, because this is something also that I must say is very, very much bad. And that is one thing also which I must now tell you, that the police are holding a man for vandalizing closed circuit television CCTV in Kaboja, also in Chengera Town Council. So this and the police CCTV camera also installed, that is also under the National Safe City project, are meant to solve also issues of challenges of urban insecurity committed especially by armed assassins riding motorcycles and also vehicles. According to Kampala Metropolitan Deputy Police Spokesperson Luka Oisjire, the suspect is being identified as Abdu Kirumira, a resident of Kaboja in Chengera Town Council in Wakiso District. Mr. Oisjire say revealed that the suspect was on several occasions seen tampering with the CCTV also in that area in there, and that is where maybe his 40th day has arrived. But really, what is wrong with Ugandans? Why must you really go and tamper with something that you well know is of security? And if at all now you are apprehended, you start regretting. And this is where we are saying our young people must avoid tendencies of also vandalism in there, because vandalism is actually one area where government is losing a lot of money in terms of solar replacement, in terms of solar losing this project. Look at our solar panels. In Arua, I want to give you an example of that. Most of our solar panels, for instance, if you look at areas of Mvara connected to Cathedral, most of the solar panels have gone. And who exactly has done that? It means it is the Ugandans. But really, why must you do that? And then look at some of the panels already and the batteries along also already some of these projects also that we are given by USMID. The projects are already facing threats already of vandalism. And who exactly is behind this vandalism? We are saying people must desist from tendencies of also vandalism, because vandalism is a crime, and that is where you will be able to be charged for these crimes in there. And now police say the incident is part of broader security concerns, as tampering with CCTV has become a common practice, particularly among individuals under influence of alcohol in there. And police has called for respect, that is a public property, and reporting any suspicious activities around the CCTV installations, that's to help maintain safety and security in the community in there, because these things are not installed for you who is also really a drunkard. And we are saying if at all you drink alcohol, it shouldn't lead you to destroying that is government property in there, because if at all you are apprehended, then definitely the law will not be able to know that you were under the influence of alcohol. You will be able to be charged for that crime you have committed. If at all it's compensation, then you will be able to compensate for that money without necessarily you being asked if at all you were under the influence of alcohol. And the first phase of surveillance system installation began, that is in June of 2018, and steadily also progressed with 603 live CCTV camera installed, that's mounted to monitor Lunguja, Old Kampala, Rubaga, Nailia, Bulenga, Kawala, Kaboa, Natete and Mutundwe are surrounding areas in there. And some of the key capabilities of the installed CCTV are surveillance and picking now plates of, that is the errant and also criminal motorists in there, because this is where also really we must also talk about issues of this nature in there. And President Museveni commissioned the multi-billion project, that's Natete, that's in October 2018, and now this is already facing vandalism in there, and that is where also people must also really be arrested for these activities in there. And that is one thing also where we're leaving that discussion aside with. And still within security, yesterday we did see also really our own, that is also really police officers, more so in traffic, also really that is carrying out operations where hundreds and hundreds of motorbikes were also really affected. And I must tell you, I did see a number of motorcycles being arrested in there, and this is also really for different crimes. This is also really for those who did not have the mirrors. And remember, some time back, the OC, that is traffic police, was here in the studios. He actually did tell us that anytime from that time they would be carrying out operations. And I must say we did see the operations going on yesterday, where hundreds of motorcycles were actually arrested and taken to CPS, where the owners were also already forced to also abide by the law. And that is where I must say these things must be there. And for those who don't have side mirrors, the side mirrors need to be put there, and this is where they should be able to buy the side mirrors at a cost, because the police has a garage. And this is where I feel such issues also really will be able to be addressing the issues of criminality in there, because when we talk about criminality today, day, we have these people who use motorcycles, most of the numberless motorcycles. We have motorcycles that are in dangerous mechanical conditions, and all this must be addressed and all this must be dealt with, because if at all we are not dealing with this, and then definitely the criminality also will be able to continue to rise in there, and at the end of the day, we are going to still be seeing and lamenting and crying out to government to sort of come to our rescue, and yet we could be able to sort of avoid some of these also the issues that we continue to talk about in there, and I feel this is actually the right way to go, and I must appraise and also thank the traffic station and traffic police also for doing that, because sometimes we are seeing our riders not also having, that is what we call the helmets. Many of them do not have the indicators working. Many of them actually do not have the side mirrors, and they continue to rise and putting the lives of those whom they carry at risk, and that is where we're saying such operations must continue and shouldn't stop by yesterday, because our people must learn and embrace what we call side mirrors, must embrace what the use of indicators, because sometimes somebody riding and this person looking behind, at the end of the day you see person just putting their arms and you wonder as if the person is a traffic officer riding, and this is where we're saying people must embrace these issues of the traffic laws, and I feel that is actually one thing that will be able to bring sanity among the riders in the city in here. And now let's leave that aside. Let's move to Tororo, where the Tororo parish gets first healthcare and health center. That is also really something we are seeing on the past morning, where there were relation and jubilation that is also really in Nyangole parish, that's in the eastern division of Tororo municipality, as the residents really welcome the construction of the first ever health facility in the area in there. And during the handover of the site, that is the UPDF Solely Brigade, also the Engineering Brigade, the source contractor, also the Tororo Municipality Mayor Kennedy Orono Nyapidi, apologized to residents solely over the delay in responding to health needs in the area, but attributed also the delay by them to that is by Ministry of Health in approving their request to have the health facility established in there. And he said under the arrangement, the Ministry of Health under primary also really health care, that's the PHC, allocated that's 450 million shillings, that's towards the construction of a fully fledged health center 3 in that area in there. And I feel this is actually going to improve on service delivery, and this is also really where it is also going to improve service delivery, first of all in relation to health, and the health has actually been one of those sectors that was affected in the budget also really in there, and I feel establishing this health facility is actually going to improve on service delivery for those who need the services in that area. Will also now be getting that is the health that they need. And he added that also the development is part of the efforts to strengthen also the health care in the area by prioritizing accessible, quality and efficient delivery of services to advance universal health in there. And the mayor said the health facility is also really at the board of Tororo Municipality Council strategic interventions towards also really ensuring a health population which is capable of also really contributing to community development in there. And I feel this is where we need to have more health centers, and this is also really where it shouldn't also really just be established in Tororo Parish, but more, and most of these areas already must be able to already get such a services already in there. And the other ongoing project is the construction of Kasoli Health Center 2, which is also in the council, so is locating after it was affected by Standard Gauge railway plans. And meanwhile, also Tororo Municipality Area Member Parliament Yeri Apollo Fono appealed to the Engineering Brigade to execute the work as per the Bill of Quantity and structural plans in there. And it challenged the council authorities to ensure also the close monitoring of the construction works and caution the municipality or council leadership against also unnecessary bureaucracies, which it says frustrates also the development of infrastructure in there. And that is one thing also we did see happening in the Mr. Eri advised the contractor to also work with the local leadership and ensure that some employment opportunities are offered also to the people, more so those also within the area in there. So that's only the benefit from the projects, and that is where opportunities, first of all, like cooks, this is also where our ladies are going to be benefiting first of all from such opportunities, because the workers need to eat food. And then we also have casual laborers, those who are going to be also carrying also the firewood, or maybe carrying also operating the tractors, and also builders also in there. And and that's where I feel also such opportunities also should be given out to them. And this is where also the negative a bit of it is coming. Most cases when such projects also come in an area, we see issues of children also getting pregnancies, and that's where we're saying this must not be able to be done by the UPDF Engineering Brigade, and we have never heard of that. We have seen this quite common with the foreign also contractors, where they have left children also in our areas in there. And look at what's happening in Maracha today. We have also what we call the Lugbara Chinese, who have been left by the Chinese who came to also do construction of the road in there. And today they have remained as the Lugbara Chinese in there, and we want to see that not happening with the UPDF, who may also go in there and leave their children in there. And that is one thing also we must also talk about, because if at all we talk about advantages, then the disadvantages already should be also be issued and also given as a warning to the people of that area in there. And this is where the parents must also be observant and also continue talking to their girl child, so that they did not fall victim of what we call the unwanted pregnancies in there, because these workers may also want to do that, and that is where we are saying tendencies of such caliber must be avoided. And let's leave that aside. Now let's look at some of the stories. One of the trending stories, as UPDF is ongoing with the recruitment. And remember, a few days ago the team was in Western Nile sub-region, and yesterday they were actually in Nebi and also the other areas in there to recruit also more people in there. But in the other areas we are seeing also the exercise still going on, and the UPDF recruit also collapsed during physical drills as a result of hunger. Also another story that we still see in Dokolo, where Uganda People's Defense Force recruit identified as Levi Okwir on July 9th also collapsed during a physical fitness test exercise that is in the Dokolo district already due to suspected hunger in there. And this young man, whose identity also already is a resident of Okwombo B village, that is in Dokolo district already in Dokolo district, collapsed as a technical institute that shortly before completing that's the 45-kilometer run in that. He was immediately evacuated by the ambulance of the UPDF also to the that's the team which also already was there to receive the recruits in there. And Captain Dr. Alex Kisa, the team also seeks also the medical officer said the Makande's blood pressure had dropped below also the normal, but he was sorely helped in time in there, and that is what we did see happening in there. And after gaining stability, Okwiri reportedly also told the UPDF medical team that he did not take enough water or eat food. That's on the previous day, that was on July 8th, as he did not also have breakfast on Tuesday morning before going for the exercise, and that is also what should also sound as a warning to those recruits who have not yet undergone the interviews in other areas. As the team is coming to your area, make sure that you fill your stomach to the full capacity, so that you not also face this embarrassment of falling also the victim that is to hunger in there, because it is quite embarrassing, and maybe the man did not also do this purposeful, and that is also by purpose, and I feel maybe not have the food, and that's where UPDF also need to have a close eye of looking at this young man, because yes, indeed he had the desire to serve the nation, but if at all is pushed out, then that is quite unfortunate, and that is where we are yet following up on that discussion. Captain Ahmed Hassan Kato, the UPDF 4th Infantry Division Public Information Officer, also the spokesperson of Team 6, confirmed the incident, and however also told Monitor that also Okwi was now out of danger pending further medical examinations in there, and that is what we did see happening in there. And the recruitment team is in the Dokolo Technical Institute. The recruit, that's young women and women who had initially also already applied and were shortlisted by the UPDF team to join them in there, and that is what we see happening in there. And the team will recruit candidates from Amalatar and Dokolo districts. That is on also Tuesday and Wednesday, which is today, and that is also where they will be heading to Kabaramaido and the Kalaki districts already. That's still to conduct the same exercise, and that is where the same exercise also still will be taking place at the same venue. That's of Dokolo Technical Institute. That's also in Dokolo Town Council in there, and that is where we are saying our young people who applied must make sure that they do the needful to also make sure they pass these interviews, because it's not easy, by the way, because I was able to see the one of our rural city where people had to be subjected to physical drills, where I saw a number of people already just actually who are not fit, but really they had to be subject to that fitness test, and that is where we are going to be following up on that discussion. Captain Kato said today also already exercise at least 39 shortlist candidates from Dokolo, and additional 30 also already from Amaltar will be recruited in there, and that's also in the coming days of today, and we are going to be following up on that discussion if at all more people will also still fall that is victim of collapsing due to hunger in there. But we are saying you must make sure that you fill your stomach to full capacity, certainly you do not fall that's victim in there. And between July and 10th, between July 10th and 14th of July, the team will also sit that's also to vet more than 25 countries, and that's also to also make sure that they also get that is recruited in the team, in the UPDF team and the medical team. Then examines also the candidates for body deformities, among others. Also that is also as part of the medical exercise in there, because they check your tooth if at all it is right. They check your eyes. If you have eye problems, you will not be able to join in there. If at all you have scars, that is still where also really you will not be able to be recruited in there. But in Arua City, we saw people being thrown out just for having tattoos. Why must you, as a young person, tattoo your body? This is something also where we did see our RCC, Charles Chogor also issuing out warning to our young people to also avoid the tendencies of wanting to have their bodies tattooed in there, because if I tell you tattooing your body, and then definitely that will not be right for you to also make sure that you undergo these physical drills, because that is where you're going to be pushed out, and that's to be pushed out just because of what we call tattoos. And then that is quite unfortunate, and that's where you're going to be losing this once in a while opportunity, because today there are not so many jobs, and if you get such an opportunity, then definitely you must also really utilize it properly in there. And that is what we did see happening yesterday, as we are yet following about the discussion, and we hope it will also continue and also really address on these issues that we are talking about. And this is one thing I feel at the end of the day is going to be addressing the concern of what we call that is bad practices among the youth who are, because during this exercise we are seeing mostly young people between the age of 18 to 22 who are targeted as part of also the recruits in there, as the one for professionals is also already coming out shortly from now, and that's also where we are going to be seeing people who did senior 6, more so sciences and other courses already will also be required to also do the interviews in there, because they have already closed the applications already, and that is where also shortly from now we are going to be seeing our professionals already join the UPDF in there. And this is where we also want to see issues of sciences, because our young people today, many of them do not also really want to do sciences, but we are saying such opportunities today target those who have sciences, and that is where we are saying our young people in schools must make sure that they give attention and they concentrate that's on sciences, and they must make sure they pass the sciences. And that's already when such opportunities arise in the future, it is actually to their catch, and that is where they would also not be able to be pushed out in there. And that is one thing also where we want to leave that discussion aside with, as we look at some of the stories. And now looking at some of the stories internationally, that is across borders, where Uganda and South Sudan commit, that is to end transboundary diseases, and that is one thing also we are seeing in health, where the two countries are also now committing to end also really the transmission of the transboundary diseases. And the government has signed an agreement with the neighboring South Sudan and DRC to prevent and control what we call the transboundary diseases. And remember earlier on, sometimes back, we were here talking about that is the monkeypox also that was emerging in DRC, and how do you make sure that that disease in the DRC does not move also to Uganda here, because many of times we have seen diseases that start from South Sudan and DRC also really reaching Uganda, and we have also diseases that also start from Uganda and also really spread that is across borders because of our proximity. And looking at South Sudan and Uganda, we have people who move in numbers each and every day who cross borders in that's between the countries, both legal and illegally, and this is also due to our porous border points. And looking at Congolese, we have so many Congolese who cross to Uganda on daily, and we see them also crossing, and some also really move without the proper documentation. And that is where we're saying now the countries must work together, and also in terms of solely addressing this issue. And the cross-border pact is expected to also to address and improve on communication and also coordination among the countries as threats of public health and what we call response to epidemics among other countries. So among the three countries is concerned in there. And the pact was signed in Glue City last Thursday, so already after 3 days of deliberations between July 2nd and the 4th in there. And that is what we did see happening, and we are yet also really seeing that, and we are going to be keeping informed still about these transboundary diseases being spread. And today we have diseases like Ebola, we have diseases like cholera, we have diseases like monkeypox, which are all also really facing the two countries, mostly between South Sudan and Uganda. And that is where we must work now hand in hand. And this is where we need to also really make sure that people who are going to be crossing the border points, much as we are joining the East African community, where we are only required to carry our national IDs, but we are saying people must make sure they use the right channels where they can be first of all tested at the border points before they enter the country in there. And looking at this disease, by the way, we have not only maybe this disease that I mentioned earlier, we have zoonotic diseases, for instance, also and so many diseases that also really can be spread from man to animals and also from animals to humans also in there. And we are seeing also this disease also really threatening our health, and that is where under public health we must make sure that these transboundary diseases that also really are not affected does not also really move and also spread that's across the borders in there, because when you look at these diseases, then definitely you will realize that already these diseases are quite threatening the security of the public health in the countries. And Uganda was represented by in this summit by also Mr. Emmanuel Turiatunga, the commissioner that is in charge of also the global health security in the office of the Prime Minister, and Dr. Michael Mwanga, the assistant commissioner of surveillance at the Ministry of Health, and Imi Mitala, the resident district commissioner for Koboko. And this is where also Koboko is actually one of those border point districts also, and that's why it becomes crucial for us to also have an incorporation of the districts within the border points to make sure they beef up the security in terms of making sure these diseases are not spreading. The Republic of South Sudan was represented by Dr. Joseph Lassou, the director that's of also the emergency preparedness and responses, and Dr. Angelo Copton, the director of that's the health security and also the emergency workforce development in there. And the cross-border also deal will facilitate establishing a multilateral framework for surveillance and information sharing and responsibility, and that is where we are going to be also following up on that. And what do you think needs to be done in terms of making sure that the Ebola, we always have to be that DRC does not move into Uganda, and also the cholera that we always think spreads from DRC does not only move into Uganda either, because now the pact has been signed, and now the MOU will also make sure the three countries speak the same language, first of all in terms of communication, and then secondly in terms of coordination. And when we talk about communication, it means if at all the disease is in the other part of the country, then the country will be able to communicate and let the counterparts in this country understand that we have been hit by this disease in this country and it is with us, and then this is what you need to do. And that would also make sure that this diseases does not also move and spread in there. And the cross-border deal will facilitate that establishing a multilateral framework, and that will also do that. And that's where we are seeing Dr. Mwanga saying that we want to make sure that also that the cross-border zone is very vibrant, and also they should also be having meetings every month, and that is where the issues of communication will also be improved in. And Dr. Lassou also said under Article 21 and 57 of International Health Regulations mandate all countries to have cross-border collaborations to ensure that we have control and prevent diseases also spillovers. That is also for member states in there, and that is one thing also these people need to work hand in hand in there. And we did see Mr. Mitala emphasizing the need that is for peaceful coexistence, so that the goal of also agreement is achieved in there. And Dr. Mwanga said all the country has been facing disease spillovers, including yellow fever, measles, and cholera from also the neighboring DRC and South Sudan. And as a strategy now, the countries have also developed that 11 action points, strategy also to mitigate the long history of infectious disease outbreaks that is rising from massive population movements in there. And the move will also see the establishment of a health operation mechanism at all points of also entry, plan to regulate also refresher trading at the common border points, and strengthen also the screening of people and travelers and inspection of animals and conveyances and cargo crossing also the border points in there. And that is one thing also we need to make sure once people are moving in these border points, they do not carry certain animals, because some of these diseases have also been spreaded by the animals. And the engagement also was supported by World Health Organization and the core group, and not forgetting group partners and projects, and Baylor, Uganda, and many others who actually we are part of this movement in there. And they feel this is actually the way to go. If at all we speak the same language as Uganda, South Sudan, and DRC, definitely these diseases, for instance cholera and yellow fever, which have been spread from the neighboring, will not be able to be spread across borders in there, and that will make us more peaceful. And for now, we are going to be summarizing our final hour, and this is where also we are going to be taking a rest. And when we bounce back, we are still going to be looking forward to some of the stories, because we still have lots more. And that's KOKOLIRIKO. We want to touch all the sectors right from the region and internationally, and that is why we are here. For now, let's take a short commercial break. And my name is Farish Majid. We take a break and we bounce back shortly. Stay tuned.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Mbappe, Cristiano Ronaldo, Harry Kane, Sané, Griezmann, Lewandowski, and many more. Who is your European star? We are very familiar with all German stadia. Trust us to give you the best Euro experience affordably. Catch the matches live on NBA Sport, channel 255 on antenna or channel 199 on Dish Decoder on Star Times. We got your stars. This message is brought to you by StarTimes Solar. StarTimes Solar, more than just solar.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Right, welcome back to the short commercial break. In case you are just joining us right now, you're most welcome aboard. And to those who are still home and yet to report to work, we are saying you must hurry up. And much as you need information, definitely you will be able to still watch us, and maybe at the comfort of your offices. And that is where you will just need data and also a smartphone where you should be watching us. And this is for the, or maybe the corporates who are still home and yet planning to go to work. We are saying people already there needing your services. You must make sure that you leave home and also maybe report to work in the other side. You'll be able to watch us via your smartphone in there and on YouTube and on Facebook as well. And that is where we are always live each and every morning. So that's besides being on Spa Times and also Zuku, where we are on channel 0073. Still, you can be able to watch us on your phone, and that is where with the global movement in technology, each and every time you can be able to watch West Nile Television at the comfort of your phone and maybe at the comfort of your room and comfort of your workplace. Each and every time, any moment you want to watch a KOKOLIRIKO live show, you are not limited, and that's where we now want to start our second discussion, the second hour with. And now looking at those big stories yesterday, a mysterious fire also really stopped a love affair of a UPD officer after the man also had to jump and run for his life in Serere district in there. And that is one thing we did see happening in there, and many people actually raising issues and mixed reactions about the same matter in there. But you will be able to tell us why, and why you want to sort of maybe share that thought, and why it is a mixed one for you. And a mysterious fire cut short a love affair that's between also an army officer attached to the UPDF in Kabang district and the girlfriend while in a lodge, and that's in Serere Town Council on the 9th of, that's also July 8th in there. And Mr. Emmanuel Oluka had checked in his girlfriend also at a room that's also identified as Shani Gardens, with also a girlfriend who is unidentified in there. And the first fire broke out, that's in one of the only lodge, and that's also one of the rooms where the officer was with the woman, and there were no injuries sustained during the incident in there. But really, who started the fire? Could it be the woman also of the CPDF officer, maybe who was tipped? Could it be that? Definitely I do not know, but really for fire to just start like that and what to run for their lives and carrying the clothes, which is really something I must say happened, and many people actually laughed about the same matter, and others also really felt pity, and that is why people expressed mixed reactions about the same matter in there. Mr. Edinson Obukelm, the acting police spokesperson for East Chiogga, has said the incident happened at about 11 p.m. and he added that the investigation to the mysterious fire already began. In that, Mr. Obukelm said when the fire broke out, the army officer was seen scampering out of his room in his underwear only in there, and this prompted the hotel staff to rush and put the fire locally with the view of also rescuing the army officer's girlfriend. And the police officer also explained in that Mr. Charles Igau, the manager of Shani Gardens, said after the incident they reported the suspected arson to Serere police force in there, and that is one thing also really where the matter is being investigated. And he added that, well, when the police visited the scene, the officer on the offer and that's run out, but they managed to recover the UPDF also uniforms in there, and that is where the man also really was able to miss his uniform in there. And that is one thing also really which we are saying the hotel, maybe the lodges, must also make sure that the security around them is actually very much beefed up, because who was behind this fire remains unknown. Could it be the girl, maybe the boyfriend of this girlfriend? Could it be the woman of the CPDF officer? Because each and maybe different thoughts can also come to our minds, because we may say it is the wife also to this CPDF officer because she saw the man also going with the woman, or it could be also this girlfriend's boyfriend somewhere also who could be behind this also the arson in there. But that is one thing that also made people to express mixed reactions. Others were happy about it, and others were also really still sad about the same matter, and that is where I also want to leave it entirely into your hands on what you think is about the same matter and what brings about these unnecessary fires and these mysterious fires so that continue to threaten people's lives in there, because these people, when their happiness, and the happiness ended shortly, I believe, where they had to run for their lives in there, because that fire, really, fire kills, and that is where people have to fly for their lives, and that's what we did see happening in there. And leaving that aside, still related to what is happening to insecurity, a Kumi police officer has been interdicted over illegal sale of government land, and the principal assistant secretary, that's the office of the Kumi district, that's Frederick Malinga, has been interdicted, that's by also allegedly selling 53 acres of government land, that's in Kayum Town Council, formerly also part of Kayum Sub-County in there. And Mr. Malinga was served with an interdiction later, that's on June 28th of 2024, where after being charged by police and charged also at Kumi Central Police Magistrate Court, and that with also already parceling out government land. And that is where this the Chief Magistrate Officer, Ms. Roslyn Angdongo Lahoni, said the Public Service also Commission regulations also require the interdiction with the civil service servant is under disciplinary action in there. Now the RDC of Kumi District, Mr. Washaki Ahmada, alleged that Mr. Malinga fraudulently also sold 200 plots of government land in Kayum Town, that's Kayum also, while the Chief Administrative Officer was also away on leave in there. The illegal transactions also involved that surveying also really the land for the buyers, and the RDC also questioned how surveyors could participate in the illegal activity, and knowing that also the legal requirements for government land also use or sell in there. But that is where I believe all these people must be arrested and also be brought to book in there, because they must also really have had a hand in terms of also really this issue in there, because if at all we didn't talk about it, then definitely that would also really mean that they also did something in and there, and that's why I feel they must also really address that matter in there. Mr. Malinga claims that the decision to sell the land was also really made by Kayum Town Council, and his role was supervisory and also without handling any money, and he remains a suspect and now until proven guilty in there. And this is where the courts of law have to do their work in terms of solely proving that it's also really beyond reasonable doubt in the investigation to the matter already ongoing. And I believe also really when the man will be proved innocent or guilty, still we shall be coming here to sort of let you know of whether he's guilty or innocent. But for now, he is still innocent and he's still a suspect until where he has to prove that he's guilty beyond the reasonable doubt in there. And I feel that is one thing also really I must keep you reminded of as the viewer, because if at all, if it not keep you reminded of what is happening in there, because the same matter could be happening in our local governments, and we don't know what to do because we think that it is only happening in there. And one thing I must tell you is that what is happening in there can happen to you here, and that is one thing also why we must make sure that we protect and also preserve our government land from being sold, and that is by the leaders who introduce officers. And that's where we're leaving that discussion aside, and now let's jet into Kip Kabale and Bushenyi, where there's an increase in leading also juvenile crime crimes also in there. And now somebody might be asking himself this early morning, why is there a rise of juvenile crimes? That is also in Kabale and areas of Bushenyi in there, and that is one thing also somebody still should be asking himself this early morning. And now information coming from that side indicates that Kabale and Bushenyi districts are the leading in juvenile criminal offences, and this also has been established in the recent statistics from Kabale Regional Remand Home, which accommodates also juvenile offenders from Chigezi and Ankole sub-regions. Also the show and that Kabale and Top also that list with also 25 and 34 cases respectively in there. And now the Kabale Regional Home, established also in September 2018, serves juvenile offenders from 17 districts in that's also in southern West Uganda, as well as from Rwanda and Democratic Republic of Congo, between July 1st and of 2023 and also July 18th of 2024. Juvenile offenders were accommodated at the facility, and the Singiro district is also in Ankole district and ranks also second with juvenile also offenders, which district in Chigezi sub-region also coming also among those also with high juvenile numbers in there. And during the recent celebration in Kabale Town Council to mark the belated International Day of the African Child, held under the theme Education for All Children in Africa. The time is now. Mr. Henry Tuinomu, who is the Kabale High Court Registrar, while representing Justice Samuel Emokor, noted that since his inception, the Kabale Regional also Remand Home has been facing a number of challenges, and is also really facing challenges, and also really is having also an increase of juvenile cases, where at least 604 juveniles, among them 586 boys and 18 girls, have also been brought in there, and that means there is more that needs to be done in there, and that is where they feel something must be done. Mr. Tuinomu also highlighted challenges such as repeated offences, parenting gaps and escapes also from National Rehabilitation Center, and campaigning is also which endanger juveniles and push them further into criminality in there. And in several interview on July 4th, in Kabale District Senior Probation Officer Ms. Monica Nizwera Muhumuza acknowledged that the statistics and attributed the high numbers of juvenile offenders to drug abuse and poor parenting. And when you look at the issues of drug abuse today, you'll be able to realize that many of our young people, not only in Kabale and Bushenyi, where we are seeing an increase, and I believe the same could also be happening in Arua City, because the issues of drug abuse cut across. And today we have a number of our young people who went to drug abuse, and this actually makes them fearless. And you see a young person below the age of 14, and by the way, I must inform you that most of the criminality that is being conducted in this Arua City is conducted by the young people, and this is because you can hardly suspect them, and you only see them taking off with your phones. And I was able to see children just below the age of 15 also engaging in this dangerous activity, and it means that also juvenile crime is still rampant, and it's also not only affecting Kabale and Bushenyi but the entire country. And this is where I must inform you that in Arua City, we are not spared by the same vice of juvenile crime, because we are seeing a number of our children into burglary, because adults also have to use them as ADs, because to also aid criminality. This is where we are seeing also the adults also sometimes using these children in there. This is also to conduct their missions, because some of these areas maybe to pass through windows also may be difficult, but a child can easily pass through them and easily maneuver their ways, and also break into people's houses in there. And also sometimes it becomes difficult for people to suspect that a child can actually steal them. They think this is a child, only to see that also something has disappeared from them, and then they start looking for this children in there. And that is why we're saying people must make sure that issues of also juvenile crime is addressed, because if at all we talk about these issues of juvenile crime, and then definitely it becomes quite important for us to make sure that we continue advocating for good parenting. And this is where parents must make sure that they do the needful. And today we also seeing in Arua City, on a sad note, where the issues of single parenting is actually very much rampant. We have people who are produced, but they're hardly staying together, leaving the entire responsibility of raising these children to the mothers. And they have also found their ways in Kampala, and others have gone to South Sudan, and raising these children also becomes a tight and difficult activity to be conducted by single parents. And that is why we're saying parents must make sure that they continue talking to their children, because if at all they are not doing that, then definitely at the end of the day we are going to be seeing our children also being affected by this vice of juvenile crime, and which may also not be right in there. And that is where we did see Bushenyi district counterpart Ms. Faith Amanya cited similar reasons, adding that adult crime rates are also really higher in the area. Both also really need that is also to be tackled in there, because when you talk about criminality, definitely it is never a good thing. And we did see also these people also already talking about condemning the rural children to early sex. And early sex is also really being a factor, also affecting people also in there. And that is one thing also I must tell you needs to be done, because if at all it's not done, then definitely that will also be able to affect that is also service delivery in there. And I feel there's more that needs to be done. And Mr. Kangasi attributed the high teenage pregnancy rates in the district in Rwanda to poverty, which also really affects also really that is other areas in there, because when you talk about poverty, definitely the children will not be able to listen to our parents. And that is why we are saying parents must now work hard and must work harder and tell their children also really, much as we are complaining about this, yes, we are poor, but we are not going to be dying poor. It is actually you as a young person to make us move from that poverty line that we are talking about, where we have also been identified as poor at maybe an income, maybe a middle income status. And that is where parents must now embrace talking to the children, and so the children get to understand why it is very, very much important for them to work harder. And that is one thing also I feel needs to be done. And now let's leave that aside. Let's move elsewhere, where NEMA 3 farms agree on Luera wetland restoration. And I think this is quite a good one. And to also have our wastelands that have been threatened also to be restored in there, I believe this is where we must also really talk about these issues. And we must support our wetlands, because if at all we are not supporting our wetlands, then definitely it would be quite difficult. And now the National Environment Authority, which is the body mandated to make sure that also really our wetlands are protected, has now also really come out to work with SONEM and other areas, and also really make sure the wetland is also really restored in, and whose operations permit expired. And that's where we are now seeing them working to also make sure the swamp along the Kampala-Masaka highway is protected in there. And although the 3 farms, which also that's Lukaya Sand Mine Limited, known as Double Q, and also the HK Investment and Water Cube also really, and this year, NEMA says the managers have written to them and also really to restore that's the sites in there. And apart from the open, that's also areas with water also really, that is where the breeding grounds for mosquitoes. And there are also fears of Lake Victoria, which may also have a negative impact on the areas in that. According to Major Joshua Karamagi, the manager of that's Environment Protection Force in NEMA, when conducted, said the authority impounded 3 machinery, and they also really agreed to hand over them, that is to also really the owners after the restoration, and also the process has been done in there. And I believe this is something also that should be done. And he added that also really more needs to be done, and the companies also really have fines to pay. That's for the restoration process. And when everything is done, that is the team will now handle the rest, including that's the handing over their machinery in there. And according to Major Joshua Karamagi, that is also really what they are going to be looking forward to. And he reiterated that when all operations permits also for sand mining farms in Luera expire, no new permits will be issued for those people in there. And I feel that is also something that needs to be done. And currently all gazetted sand mining also in Luera are heavily also guarded by soldiers and also not accessible for the public. And much as we are talking about sand mining also really being as an activity for our young people, because we have people today who are working as sand miners, and their duty is to go and extract soil from this, or maybe from these water bodies, and also to go sell in there. And that's for the construction, maybe in other areas, because when you move to Masaka, you will be able to realize many vehicles, most of these heavy trucks are transporting sand from that area to Kampala for the construction. And much as we need to construct, definitely we also saying environment protection also must be protected in there, because if at all we are not protecting the environment, then definitely it is going to be quite difficult for us to also attain certain issues. And that's why we're saying people must make sure that they protect the environment. And to protect the environment is actually to a one-man show. It calls for individual responsibility, it calls for collective responsibility, where we all have to work hard. And who exactly is supposed to be doing that means that me and you have something to do in terms of protecting the environment. And how can we protect the environment? We must make sure that our activities on these water bodies and on these wetlands is actually one that is not also going to affect and put it at the risk of also having a negative implication. And that is why we're saying people now must resort to protecting the environment in there. And once we protect the environment, then definitely we are going to be achieving a lot in terms of making sure that the environment is protected. And this is where this fragile environment also really must be protected. And I must say today, I must thank so many of these NGOs that are also championing environment protection, more so those who are interested in Westland restoration solely that in place. And this is where solely we are saying very soon we are also going to be seeing a wetland restoration in a rural city going on. Today you look at our wetlands, look at our water bodies, then our water is actually threatened also by issues of also activities that also continue to go in. And we have people who are washing cars on these water bodies, and today we also have the sand miners that we're talking about who are also extracting soil from these water bodies, so still putting water body at risk. And that's why we're saying these activities also really must be supported, and at the end of the day we want to see all this also really attaining a lot in terms of really addressing that issue in there. Now let's let aside police investigate Hoima councillors over pocketing, that is shillings 100 million Emyoga funds. This is quite sad. And now police in Hoima have kicked off investigation into allegations of diversion of Emyoga funds amounting to shillings 100 million that by the councillors in India, and it's alleged that the councillors pocketed the funds at the expense of the intended also really beneficiaries in there. And that is one thing also really we need to also make sure that we do talk about, because if at all we don't talk about it, then definitely that is where it becomes quite difficult. And I feel that is one thing we need to do in terms of sort of making sure that we address this matter. And among those implicated is Patrick Rusoke, the LC3 councillor, that is for Buraru sub-county, who is also already accused of pocketing, that is shillings 15 million out of this Emyoga funds. And this is where we are going to be following up on discussion, because Emyoga was not meant for these councillors. Emyoga was actually meant for that vulnerable poor, and that is where, just like PDM, government actually came to also really make sure this money goes into groups. And Emyoga is actually supposed to be going to the groups. And I feel that is one thing also that needed to be done, because if at all it's not done, then definitely at the end of the day, that is also going to be having a negative implication. And I really feel something needs to be done, and something could be going on wrong somewhere if at all these councillors pocketed this money. And that is where police needs to carry out thorough investigations, and those who are involved and found guilty also must be brought to book, because this money was given by government to also make sure people move out of the poverty line that we are talking about. Because if at all they are not also moving out of the poverty line, then it becomes quite difficult. And according to this list, we are seeing website also seeing a number of councillors, including Rusoke, signed for Emyoga funds using different names, but the money was sent to their mobile money phone numbers. Really, this is corruption, and this is corruption that must be investigated in there. And recently, the Hoima RDC and LC5 chairman, that's Uthman Mugisha, asked police to investigate the councillors, and so is following several complaints from the members of the community who cited also this form of corruption. And that is one thing also there where I must say must be done in and that's one thing also where I must say must be done. Thorough investigation must be carried out, and those behind this corruption must be brought to book, and so those intended beneficiaries who would not get the money also already can't be able to get this money. And what exactly needs to be done? I am suggesting thorough punishments also already where these councillors arrears, and what we call, first of all, they are arrears, that is in honoraria, and that is already, and the monies must be held, and that's where these monies they used to get as allowances must be arrested and also be handed over to these circles who did not receive the money in there. And I feel this is actually going to be addressing the concern, and I believe just like that, that is going to be addressing this issue. And other than that, there's nothing that is going to be done. And I feel this is the right time for this people to also make sure that they desist from eating government money and stop misusing the monies that government is actually giving out, because government does not give this money to the middle income. Government is giving out this money to the poor, and government has money for the people who are in the middle income. Today we have the Uganda Development Bank, which is actually giving out loans, that is to these people who are in there, but for them to also get small money then becomes quite unfortunate. And the growth project for the women is actually there, and government is all aiming to make sure that people who are already there in the middle income move further, and that's so that they do not remain where they are in terms of getting the money. And listen, the Hoima RDC and LC5 chairman Uthman Mugisha asked police to investigate the councillors following the several complaints. So Mugisha confirmed as being summoned to make statement by police in there, and I feel that's something also we did see happening in that. While we did see Michael Chakashari, the deputy RDC, says he got concerned when most groups are not returning the money, only to find out that also they are landed in the wrong hands in there. But really, how did these people get the monies? Because many of the times people do not get these monies, then it becomes quite unfortunate, and for them to also get the money in there. And that is one thing also really we feel must be addressed in there. And now that is one thing also really I feel needed to be done, because for the councillors to obtain the money like that, then it becomes quite unfortunate. And now let's go aside as we get finalized the first hour of the second hour, the first hour and the first 30 minutes of the second hour, and let's now look at what's happening elsewhere, where the former RDC for Rubaga, that's Anderson Burora, has again been denied bail, and that's what we did see happening in there, where former Rubaga Division Deputy RCC, that's Anderson Burora, appeared yesterday before Buganda Road Chief Magistrate Court on Tuesday morning for his bail hearing, which did not go on well. And on July 4th of this year, Burora was charged with hate speech and malicious information under the Computer Misuse Act and was subsequently remanded to Luzira prison until July of 9th. And if convicted, the offense also carries what we call a penalty of a fine not exceeding 750 currency points, which is also really what we call 15 million also really in there. An imprisonment that is up to 7 years in jail or both in there. And the bus carrying Burora and other suspects already arrived at court. That's at 9:30 a.m. where Burora was denied charges against him in there. And what does this mean? Could it mean that also really there's just being denied to him? Definitely, that's what also really we shall be able to ask ourselves in. And the court was informed that between March and June 24 of 2024, Kampala district also really nearby areas, Burora was using his X handle, formerly known as Twitter, also really to share information that was likely to ridicule, degrade, and also really demean and promote hostility against the Speaker of Parliament. That is Right Honorable Anita Among, and that's what he got arrested for. And the second count of the prosecution stated that also the Burora was shared malicious information about Among also during the same period and during the same also areas in the prosecution led by State Attorneys Richard Birimvubuka, Joan Keko, and Ivan Chaze informed court that also the investigations were still going on the matter, and that is where also the Burora was charged, and Burora's legal team consisting of 7 lawyers asked the court also to also dismiss the charges against the client, arguing also that the charge sheet was defective in there, and that is one thing also we did happening in there. And lawyers Philip Nabi, David Kamukama, and also Benjamin Katana contended that the charge sheet did not also really specify what Burora had also already said also to constitute hate speech, and did not also indicate anything malicious in there. And that is one thing also we did see happening in there. Decided the case of Dr. Stella Nyanzi, in which the prosecutor specified vulgar language used, which also is not the case with Burora charge sheet. The Munabi requested court to release Burora until a proper charge sheet could be drafted by the constitution in there, and that's what we did see. And however, Birimvubuka also asked court for an adjournment to respond to the defense submissions, and that is what we did see happening in that. I feel that is one thing also really where justice also really maybe also really should be also be given to this man that we are talking about in there, and that's one thing we are going to follow up on. And they suggest also if the prosecutor Birimvubuka is available next week, their colleague Chaje also who is a regular at Buganda Road Court should hand the matter instead of remanding Burora also for an extended period in that. However, just Chief Magistrate Ronald Chaze ruled the legality of the charge sheet must also first be resolved before proceeding also with the case in the Burora was suspended on March 14th by the Secretary, that's of Office of the President Haji Yunus Kakande, for violating also for violating public service outstanding orders by publicly attacking the Speaker also in there, and that is what we did see happening in there. And I feel that is something somebody out there as a viewer should be able to share with us the opinions, and that's already on this arrest in there, because the Computer Misuse Act that was recently established also is going to be dealing out with one person or the other, because you may be able to also misuse social media or misuse the computer also that you are using in there to also make sure that you do defamation and also do certain bad things. But really, if at all court also comes maybe to deal with you, then definitely that's where you're going to be having regrets. But we are saying to avoid all those, you must make sure that you use the computer very, very well in the bra, and that is what we did see happening in there. And this should also serve as a warning for those who may also want to misuse the social media, thinking that they need followers in there, because this is where our young people mostly have landed themselves in trouble. That's also for misuse of the computer in there, and this is where we've seen them also first of all through leaking videos and pictures, which is really, really wrong. And we are saying also to insult somebody is wrong. These are also charges where you will be able to be charged under the Computer Misuse Act in there. Now, to avoid being charged, then use the computer very, very well. And that brings us to the end of the first half of the second hour, and that means we are just left with 30 minutes, that is to 9 o'clock, and at 9 o'clock, that is when we are going to be leaving room for the Area News team with Fete Emmanuel, who will be here to sort of let you know of what's happening in the world of news. But for now, allow me running for this short commercial breather as we bounce back shortly.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Mbappe, Cristiano Ronaldo, Harry Kane, Sané, Griezmann, Lewandowski, and many more. Mbappe! Who is your European star? We are very familiar with all German stadia. Trust us to give you the best Euro experience affordably. Catch the matches live on NBS Sport, channel 255 on antenna or channel 199 on Dish Decoder on Star Times. We got your stars. This message is brought to you by StarTimes Solar. StarTimes Solar, more than just solar.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
All right, welcome back to the short commercial break. We already 33 minutes after the hour of 8 o'clock. It's a great pleasure having you on board. Who is watching us right from the time we began until this hour of the morning, we say thank you so much. And in case you are just joining us right now, we also want to take this single opportunity to say you are most welcome aboard. And this is the KOKOLIRIKO live show that you will be able to get information of what's happening in the corridors of current affairs and what is happening elsewhere. And that happens nowhere but only here on West Nile TV. And we only do not limit our discussions to what is happening from the region. We go national and internationally, and that is where, in most cases, we also want to say it's always good to have you watch us, and we do not also limit our discussion. And as always, we summarize with what is happening in the world of sports, and I must say so many activities are happening. And yesterday we did see one of those teams also that many people thought that could not be knocked out, also being knocked out as by a team which mainly comprised of young people. And what does that mean? We are talking about the Euros and more detail with that will be coming later on. But for now, let's first look at some of those trending stories that have been there for quite a long period of time. And one of those is actually about Molly Katanga, who also is being accused of killing the husband. And now the bail applications has often raised concern because this woman we're talking about has often raised issues of being also unhealthy, because she feels that also she deserves to get bail in there, but that has not been able to come to her wish, and that is what we did see happening in there. And now she claims being sick, and now the police doctor also disowns her evidence, and that is what we did see happening in there. And the first prosecution witness who took that is also to check, that is to dock that old pin Miss Molly Katanga for alleged murder of her husband Henry Katanga. I could have also wished to step that last, and that's what we did see happening in there, and where we did see Dr. Julius Mwezi, a superintendent of police, or attached to that, the director of public health services, that is at public health center that's in Zambia, walked back on his statement and disowned his own evidence in there, and what happened and what could have gone wrong. And on cross-examination of medical report on Tuesday, Dr. Mwezi said also there cannot only be B of the form, I did not sign on the first half in there, and that is what we did see happening there. But what happened, and could it be some pressure from somewhere? Because at the end of the day, you say that this is that what happened here. At the end of the day, we also see alternative statements, and that is where it becomes very, very much contradictory. And I feel there's something that could have gone somewhere, and that also calls for investigation, not by only the police now, but all the teams. And that's where court also needs to carry out its own investigation and independence investigations, and that is where it becomes quite difficult to also really make sure information you are relying on is also double standards, and that's why it becomes quite difficult. And on cross-examination of his medical report on Tuesday, Dr. Mwezi said, I can only own part B of the form. I did not sign also the part A in there. That's why it becomes quite difficult. And the police form of 24 for medical examination of suspects became an issue on the first day of the hearing in substance. That's at the High Court on Tuesday, and I believe where somebody is now running. Some rat could be smelling somewhere, and I don't know what you think as a viewer, but definitely there could be some rat smelling somewhere which may not be able to add, and that is why I feel it calls for thorough investigation, and who exactly is supposed to be doing that investigation. It means me and you have something to do. That's in terms of solely addressing that matter in there. Dr. Mwezi, who examined both co-accused, that is George Amanyire and Charles Otai, admitted that while he stamped and signed on Form 24, his signature and stamp on the second half had been altered in there, and who altered this definitely is something also we must investigate in there. And if at all that is a form of corruption, then definitely if at all this lady is guilty, let us serve the courts of law. Let us serve justice, and that if you are told she's innocent, then still she must be released, because at the end of the day, these issues to me is not feeling. I feel is not adding up, because at one time we see them doing that. Definitely, that feels very bad in there, and that's where it becomes quite difficult for us to understand. But we are yet following up on that matter, and with the investigations into that court in there, and I feel there's something that needs to be done at the end of the day. And the medical examiners also of testimony followed defense counsel Ellison Karuhanga's probings, in which he suggested also that Dr. Mwezi did not examine the suspect, and for the form also was also already fabricated as evidence in there. And I feel that is where also something needs to be done. And I feel there's more that needs to be done, because at the end of the day, if I told this lady was innocent or guilty, still she must be also proved guilty or innocent in there, because the court process to me is delaying, because once we say, we usually say justice, when the court process is prolonged, that is also where it becomes very much difficult, because at the end of the day, you are supposed to be also subject to court within 24 hours, and that is where at the end of the day to be kept on remand in there, to me I feel is very bad. And if at all there is evidence, be it for guiltiness or innocence, they must do it quickly. And that's also where this lady who is claiming to be sick can also really be able to go for the treatment that she wants in there, because she has been claiming to be sick, where her head has been affected, and that is where doctors have still denied also to listen to those. And this is also what called for her issue to be also assessed, and that is via CCTV in there. And I feel there's more that needs to be done, because as we are investigating on this matter, we are also really seeking justice. That's for both the woman and the man who was also killed in there. If I told the man was innocently murdered, then definitely justice must also prevail, and that's also by sending this lady to Lucira. And that is one thing also that I feel at the end of the day, justice will be served in there. And I feel that is one thing that needs to be done, because many of the times these issues also continue to be at the courts of law. At the end of the day, you find them also being sent like that, and also being disowned, and I feel this is very wrong. And now for people to also disown their evidences just like that, it is also really something that raises eyebrows. Who tampered with the document? And that is where also really we feel something needs to be done. Could it be some corruption somewhere? Definitely I do not know, but we are leaving it at that point, as investigations to the matter already ongoing, and we shall be able to come back and still keep you informed if at all there is any development in relation to that. And that is actually why, as West Nile Television, our mandate remains. That is to also really keep you informed in relation to that. And that is where we always say a person who is informed will always make informed decisions, and that is why we are saying that discussion must stop in there. And now let's look at some of the stories happening elsewhere. Uganda Red Cross also launched humanitarian fund. That is also something we are seeing on the past morning. As part of the celebrations to mark 60 years of existence, Uganda Red Cross Society has announced an aggressive campaign that will climax also really with the launch of a humanitarian fund that is aiming to support also the activities in there. And that is also really where sometimes its activities are being hampered. That is because of funding, and now it is going to be also launching the humanitarian funding. And speaking on Tuesday, Secretary General of the Uganda Red Cross Society, Robert Kwesiga, say the 6-month campaign dubbed Humanity Needs You will seek to recruit and also members and volunteers support their activities in there, and I feel that is also something where we must support them, because sometimes this post money comes from us, and we must support URC because sometimes they're not going to be entirely depending on donor funding, but as local individuals, we still have the mandate of supporting them in there. And explain that whereas international donors can provide funds, these are never enough and earmarked also for specific activities and projects which they have interest in, and noting also that other emergencies which may not also have interest and which may be of interest may not be funded in there, and that is where we also have to come in hand and also support in them. Kwesiga said it's high time Ugandans funded their own activities in there, and for example in Uganda we need a minimum of last 450 units of blood, but last year we also collect that's 300,000, yet many are still needing the blood in there. And what does that call for? It means that also we must support Uganda Red Cross, which is also championing blood donation in there, because if at all we're not doing that, then definitely we are going to be also still affected by that. And how and what exactly needs to be done? We must make sure that we champion the issues of blood donations, because if at all we are not donating blood, then definitely when you need it, then it may not be in place, and that is where we also now have to support. That is also these bodies in terms of also making sure that they get the blood that they want, and I feel that is something also which at the end of the day may be quite good in there. And the U.S. Secretary General said launching of a humanitarian fund will ensure fund the activities while responding to disasters and emergencies also in various parts of the country, and then waiting for donors to come to their rescue. In that Kwesiga explained that whereas they get funding from government, it is never enough, and their activities are, and sometimes yet of the funding also makes them not to do the activities, and that is where now such activities will be quite important. He said that whereas they will not be setting amount for each person to contribute, however small contribution Ugandans will make will also leverage on the magic of big numbers to ensure that they reach that target in there. And I feel that is something that needs to be done, because if at all you contribute 500 shillings, trust me that 500 shillings will be able to be enough. It will also really help in attaining a number of issues, and I feel that is where we need to support Uganda Red Cross Society, because Uganda Red Cross Society, we have seen them doing quite a lot sometimes, where the accidents, before even the health workers arrive, the team of URC is already there. When there are big events, we see them there, and that means they need funding, and that's where we need to support them. And much as our contribution may be little, still, when the fund is launched, it could be the little you have. Definitely, that little you're having is going to help somebody out there in terms of running the URC activities, and that's why we're saying that is something that needs to be done, and we are going to be also still continuing to ask you to come out and support. And once we support, then definitely human activities for humanitarian cause is going to be addressed, because this is money that is not going to be used also for doing bad activities. It is money that entirely is going to be going for a good cause. And when I talk about good cause, it means that work that is also going to be supporting humanitarian nature. Today we have disasters that are affecting people, but these people lack what to do and lack to get where to get help from, and where exactly are they going to be getting this money from? It is actually through such interventions and such initiatives that they will be able to get this money in there, and that is one thing also that I feel we need to support now URC for. And that is one thing also we need to also make sure, and we talk about transparency and accountability purposes, and that is where also, if at all the monies that people have been giving them also has value, then more people are going to be donating. And that's one thing I also want to task URC on. And if at all they embark on these issues of transparency, then definitely many are going to be donating without having doubts and without also having resistance in terms of donating money for this cause in there. And I feel transparency is actually one thing that not only Uganda Red Cross Society must embark on, but I'm saying the rest of the non-governmental organizations and the other international agencies also really must make sure that they embark in promoting, because if at all they do not promote this, then definitely at the end of the day people are still going to be affected, and that's where money that was meant to go to this for may not be able to solely arrive in there. And I feel that would also really affect and impede service delivery in there, because these agencies must also really support that is government, and also really support government doing certain of these activities. And I feel that is where it becomes quite important for us to join hands with Uganda Red Cross Society in terms of also really achieving that in there, and that is one thing also we need to talk about. And as we get move on with the show now, let's get into Gulu, where Gulu City is stuck with shillings 1.6 billion of PDM cash. Is another story we are seeing on the paper this morning, where parish development model beneficiaries in Gulu City are yet to receive the money for the financial year that was already ended in there. And according to the resident city commissioner, that is Jane Francis Amongin, shillings 1.6 billion meant for the 32 wards is still sitting at the account, with the commercial officer also already hesitant to disburse the funds due to unclear guidelines in there. And that is one thing also we are seeing in there. And the fear to disperse the money stems from the arrest of former commercial officer, that is Nixon Kumaket Atemo, for embezzling the PDM cash in there. And Ms. Amongin has been in every word of the city, also really preaching President Museveni's gospel of the PDM. However, of recent, she has been frustrated by the failure of the city to disperse the money by the beneficiaries to the beneficiaries. And speaking to journalists, Mungkin said more money is coming for circles, but also not, unfortunately, not being given to that is due to and that's also the unclear procedure in there, and that is where she expresses her concern and also problem in there. She called upon the responsible ministry to wake up and give the money to and issue the guidelines so that the money can be dispersed and the beneficiaries will be able to get the money in that. However, the news about the PDM idle money also raised concern and queries to the intended purpose, that's of the money, with many also asking why the money is sitting idle at the account. And that is where we are saying these people must now work hand in hand and also to make sure that this money actually reaches, that is, to the intended people and the intended beneficiary. In the Nelson Obol, a church leader, said that the failure to execute the fund disbursement was intentional, and also really, the issue of saying the guidelines were unclear is just also something which is also to cover up their main motive in there, and that is where, to avoid such doubts, this leader needed to come out and explain to the masses that yes, the money has come, we have the money, but we are not going to be giving it to you for this reason. So that's already the reason can be investigated, and that is where this issue of the PDM money has also come out. And remember earlier on we were talking about the PDM councillors in Hoima who mislocated the monies, and now they are being investigated. Was it also really going to be the same scenario? Definitely I do not know, but we are saying there needs to be transparency in terms of also allocating the PDM cash in there, because the PDM cash is being given by the government. It's not an individual's money. It's money from the government that government is giving to solely make sure that the people's livelihoods are improved and people can be able to solely move from the poverty line. That is the money economy as the dream of the president and Vision 2040 in there, because the president Vision 2040 is actually to make sure that there is nobody beyond poverty, and that's solely where we also need to make sure such initiatives are also really addressed in there. And that's one thing also I feel needs to be done in there. And I feel the parish development model is an initiative, and that is also really where it needs to be supported in. And but there is consistent call from leaders also to make sure that there's increased sensitization and mindset change that is about the use of the PDM cash, because many people have actually misused the money, and you realize the money may not be able to solely realize its intended purpose because some people have misused the money. Today we have children who are called PDM, we have mothers that are called mama PDMs in the local areas, and today we have rich men who are called PDMs just because they received the money and drank the entire money in there with women, with men, and that is where it is not, the money was not meant for. And we are saying these tendencies call for mindset change, and who exactly is to make that? And that's me and you, to make sure that people understand that this money is actually meant for them to also not eat, but to also make sure that they also move and improve on their livelihoods in there, because there's nobody who is supposed to be within the poverty line, because poverty is never something good. And we have often talked about poverty, and many people have also really raised concern about poverty, and that's why we're saying to avoid being between the poverty line, then definitely we also need to make sure that we also improve and take care of our lives. We must be serious about our livelihoods, so that certainly nobody is going to be relying on poverty and remaining on poverty in there. And I feel me and you have something to do, and that is where it calls for individual responsibility in terms of making sure that also we talk about poverty in there. And now let's leave that aside, looking at the international stories as we get to close at the end of discussions. And as always, we summarize with the international stories, and now to start off the discussion right with also what's happening in the world of technology. Technology giant Samsung has been hit with indefinite strike. This is another story that we are seeing on the past this morning, where a union of representing workers at South Korean technology giant Samsung Electronics has called on its roughly also already 30,000 members to go on strike indefinitely as part of the campaign for better pay and benefits in there. And that is where also we are seeing that, and this is where today many people are also using the Samsung phones. But if at all the workers go on strike over pay, What will that mean? And the announcement came on Saturday, last day of a 3-day general strike being held by the National Samsung Electronics Union, that's abbreviated as NSEU. And the union also said it has made a decision after management showed no intention of holding talks also over their demands. In the remember, the workers of this company are striking because they want an increase and better pay, and many of them actually complaining about payment. And now the tech giants, and remember, Samsung makes a lot of things. We talk about the phones, we are talking about screens, we are talking about fridges, which are all being manufactured by Samsung, and these are things that also many people up to love today. But today the workers are now complaining about salary enhancement. What does that mean, and what does that show? Definitely I feel something also should be going somewhere wrong, and that's where the workers, if at all they continue with their strikes, I believe this is also going to be having an impact on the final user. First of all, if at all maybe their salaries are enhanced, what will this maybe imply on the final user of the Samsung gadget, and one who may also want to buy the Samsung gadget? Definitely that will also have its own negative implication. And on part of the union, the company has no intention to engage in the dialogue even after the first general strike that we declare also second general strike starting that's on July 10th, lasting indefinitely in there, and that's what we did see happening in there. Last month, the union staged the first walk out of the company since it was founded 5.5 decades, and Samsung Electronics is the world's largest money maker, also that make of memory chips, smartphones, and also really televisions already in there, and it is also the flagship of South Korean conglomerate, that's of Samsung Group in there. And today the workers are complaining about salary in there, and what will that mean, and what does that mean? We are leaving that aside, and now let's look at what's happening in Israel, and where we are talking about the war where Israel's won Gaza alive, also dozens killed on Israel's attack on 4th school, and definitely this is really wrong, and we are seeing that happening also in Israel today, where an Israel airstrike has also killed at least 29 also people at the Al-Duwada school in Abu Sada near the southern city also of Khan Yunis. That is also really killing 500 and leaving 520 people displaced. And when shall we see an end to this war that is also really in Gaza in there? Because we want to talk about this amidst several interventions today that also to make sure that this will leave the war. But this also really goes on, and the attacks by Israel on Gaza continues. And remember, this is already having an impact where we are seeing so many people really dying. And earlier this morning I was watching also really on the national television also really where I was able to see young people who were also really killed during these attacks, and that's where we saw dead bodies where parents are wailing, and that makes it quite difficult. And one thing that also really shocked me is that where there was an attack, 3 people died, and these were cousins. Actually, one survived. And what kind of memory are we living also, and what kind of memory is this child going to be growing with? And these are things we need to look out for, because war is never good. And when you look at what's happening in that part of the world, then definitely you'll be able to realize why this war is actually very much dangerous. And during the 7th period, we are seeing 197 UN staff are being killed in Israel by Israel attacks, and also a total of 188 installations operated by the UN also really agency are being damaged by the strikes in there. But really, what can be done to avert this war? And that's one thing also really we need to make sure also really that we talk about this one. Palestinian released from Israel in the Gulf prison in shocking conditions, also of prisoners group, and that's something also we are seeing happening in Gaza areas. And definitely that war is still continuing, and we shall be able to still come back tomorrow and keep you informed of what is happening in relation to that. But the war in there is never something good, because we must continue also really talking about that war in there, because that war is never good, and so many issues also continue to happen in there. And I feel definitely there's something wrong, and that's something also that calls for the world to work together, and the world leaders will join hands and also really make sure that also this war that is there does not also continue, because if at all it's continuing, then definitely that is going to be quite unfortunate for those within the area to also really continue suffering the negative implications, because we are seeing loss of lives, we are seeing destruction of property, and we are seeing also really peace being destabilized. And once peace is destabilized, definitely that is already very wrong. And in the massacre, at least we are seeing 29 people killed as Israeli war plane hits another Gaza school, and this is something we are seeing, and that is where the attacks by Israel on Gaza also really is something we must also talk about, because we may be talking about it being in Gaza, but these are human beings. Let's first put the face first of all, of being human beings, and that will also make sure that we understand and we also talk about these issues that also really continue to happen in there. And that is one thing also we must also talk about, and that is one thing which I would also really be leaving that discussion with for today. But as always, I have to summarize the last hour, the last minutes with what's happening in the world of sports. And remember, the transfers ongoing, and one person who actually made my night for the transfer is Titus Sematimba, who has now crossed, that is to western side, that is of Chitara Airtel Football Club. That's after his move from Wakiso Sports Club in there, and that is also already on a free transfer in there, and that is under undisclosed fee. And that is one thing also really I feel I need to also really let you know of, because the transfers are still going on, and very soon the Uganda Premier League also really will be returning, as well as the 4 big leagues plus the regional leagues also really shall be returning. And I feel there's more that also really we must talk about in there. And last night we did also have games in the Euros. I must also remind that we were interesting and shocking results, as Spain was able to eject France by beating France by 2-1 in there, and that means France now will be thrown out. And then the games have advanced, that is to the final stages, and that is something we did see happening in there. And I feel more to that also really will be coming and unfolding later on. That is on our program of the Whistle Time that will be coming through that's from 2 to 3 p.m. with Owen Ezaga and Linda Suzy. But that is where we are not also still going to be limiting. And yesterday we did see games happening in the world of Euros, where Spain was able to beat France by 2-1. And this goal for Lamine Yamal was also the goal that was able to take that is the Spanish side to the finals of the Euros in there. And that is what we did see happening in there. After that is also really where we did see Dani almost scoring Spain's second goal. After that is also really France scoring. That's another goal, and that means also really now Spain will either face England or Netherlands in the final clash that will be taking place on Sunday. And that is also another game that is going to be like a must watch. And what do you think, and who exactly do you think will be crowned champions of the Euros? That is something definitely I'm leaving entirely in your hands. As the viewer, you have the best answers on who exactly you feel should be the winner in there. And England advanced to the finals, semi-finals also really after that is through penalties, and that is also really where now they will also still be playing their semi-finals, and after that they will be playing if at all they qualify, they will be able to really go to the finals in there, and that is where Netherlands or England will be able to be advancing through. And what do you think, and who do you think will be able to be crowned champions for this year? I'm leaving that entire in your hands as the viewer, as we get the climax of today's show. And we want to stop here and leaving the room. That is for the AOL News team to come through. For now, we are stopping here. We want to thank you who watched us right from the time we began until this hour of the morning. We want to say asante sana for always watching us, and we love it that you always part of the discussions from that is Mondays to Fridays, right from 7 o'clock until 9 o'clock. And our mandate remains to keep you informed and educated and entertained as well. We do not want to leave any sector out, and this is where we touch across all the sectors, be it in information world, be it entertainment, be it in the world of education, because all in all we make sure that also we do all the part and all what it takes. And that is where sometimes we bring guests in areas where we have interest, and this is also for them to come and explain what exactly would be happening in that particular area in there. And that is where we are coming to the end of today's discussions. For those of you who watched us, we once again want to thank you, and we shall be bouncing again tomorrow for the Thursday edition, and where we still also will be coming with lots more and to keep you informed, updated and entertained. And for now, we are stopping here. Feta Emmanuel is up next with the news bulletin, and the bulletin barade ide tariadne dini aniale dimiai materi adiskunu rimura gerkolade wala zalubar tisirben ma pado asani mani amadika udu sirmalia dika ma otitandondo divine mura gerkolade dini ale dio mani Kiri Western TV Nezolini. Up next is the news bulletin. I want to stop here. Have yourselves a good day until tomorrow.